The information provided in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice.
Hey, it's Nikki. Thrilled to hand the mic over to our friends at TestRx MD. You might remember David and me sharing our pretty in-depth health journey last year, from a devastating diagnosis to our taking health by the driver's seat. We chose to partner A to B first with the health professionals that have helped us most. Collectively, David and I, we lost over 60 pounds, and so many other aspects of our health have us feeling more lively and confident these days. So look, we're on a learning journey with you, and we know you agree. Health is so crucial to our ability to live our best lives. P.S. Don't wait to hit this team up at TestRxMD for a free concierge coaching call. There's a link in the show notes, or feel free to ask us. But this action could be the start of a whole new you. It was for us. So I'm passing the mic to our partners at TestRxMD.
Hey guys, welcome back to Activate Your Best Health, where we dive deep into optimizing your health and wellness. I'm John Nieters, and this is my co-host, Leslie Snider. Today, we're going to be discussing a topic that affects millions of men. It's all about testosterone and testosterone replacement therapy. So today, we're going to be kind of diving into different sections about testosterone. We're going to start really going over what is testosterone and understanding its role in the body. And then kind of moving into the benefits of TRT. We'll make sure that you guys are aware of some important considerations, as it may not be a good fit for every single guy on planet Earth. And then we'll kind of get into the nitty gritty stuff. So why expert care truly matters. And that kind of will break down into the risks of going on the black market to source your testosterone, why that's such a bad idea. Even though it may appear at surface level that it's cheaper up front, there's a lot of hidden costs that you're not really aware of, both financially and health-wise. And then, of course, leading into the benefits of the professional medical care services that we provide, or any other clinic as well. If there's one thing that I want to make clear, even if you don't choose us for your testosterone replacement therapy, I want to make it very clear that it's much more beneficial to choose a medical clinic instead of going on the black market. That is a huge issue. And if you've been experiencing the symptoms that we discussed today, the fatigue, the lack of motivation, the struggles with body composition, or any other signs of low testosterone, don't wait to take action. I promise you, it's not going to get any better. Your path to optimal health starts with one simple step. Click the links below in our show notes. We've made it incredibly easy for you to get started. You'll find our comprehensive patient intake form, direct links to schedule your consultation at My Body Health and Wellness, and additional resources about testosterone replacement therapy. Remember, your health is an investment, not an expense. Our expert team at My Body Health and Wellness is ready to guide you through your personalized optimization journey. Don't compromise your health by seeking unregulated alternatives. Click the links below and take the first step toward reclaiming your vitality. And if you found value in today's episode, make sure you subscribe to Activate Your Best Health and share this episode with someone who might benefit from this information. Together, we can help more people understand the importance of optimized hormone health. All of the resources we discussed today, including our patient intake form, clinic information, and educational materials, is just one click away in the show notes below. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So, before we dive into treatment options, it's crucial to understand what testosterone is and why it's so vital for men's health. Let's break down the fundamentals. All right, Leslie, your turn. What is testosterone and what is its role in the body?
Thanks, John. I appreciate that. Great introduction. I think everybody understands that it's a hormone. Testosterone's a hormone. It's the dominant hormone in males. I mean, we all have it, males, females. Um, but why is it so important? I think is what we just really started to kind of, get a strong hold on over the last, maybe decade or so. But testosterone plays it's more than just that male hormone. It's a fundamental building block of men's health. Muscle and bone development, red blood cells, sexual function and libido, guys are really fast to kind of jump to, what's that erectile dysfunction pill that's so popular? Viagra? Is that it?
Viagra. Yep.
Yeah. So I know people and they'll be like, hey, they use Viagra. And I was like, are you on TRT? And no, I'm not. I'm like, well, you could literally do away with the using that Viagra by jumping on, TRT. Especially some of the guys I know are my age at 50 years old. But yeah, it also plays a role in fat distribution, which we'll get into a little bit more here in a little bit when it comes to estrogen in our fat and having, which is interesting to me, really, really interesting because it's either which one is it the cause or the effect when you have estrogen being made in fat, right? And it's being stored in fat, and then the fat can also make estrogen. So having low testosterone, is that the cause of the obesity, or is the obesity the cause of the low testosterone? So it's that cause and effect thing that up for discussion. But and we'll jump on that here in a few seconds too. But it's important to know too, like that declines, that testosterone level declines, once you hit a certain age. And that age is becoming earlier in life and earlier in life and earlier in life. As you know, I mean, we have clients that are in their early 30s already. And I was like that too. I was on early TRT at about 38 years old. But, I think with my situation and with a lot of guys too, especially going in the gym industry at an early age, you kind of follow the gym bro. And, especially my age and stuff, we kind of just fed off one another. It was like, oh, you're taking this, this, and this to help build the muscle. Okay. What am I using? Well, I don't know, just some black market stuff, which we'll get into, which is bad. You don't know what you're getting in that side. But the gym bros, we used it, we kind of did that. And what's that going to do to you when you don't really know, you're not educated, you're not doing your blood work, you're not doing all the things needed to do to be safe, and that kind of destroys your testosterone. I did that in my mid 20s probably. So, but yeah, I've been on low T since I was about 38 years old. Oh, minus the 6 years we had two kids. I had to, because it does suppress the, the gonads there. So yeah, I was on a little bit different therapy when it came to having our children, but yeah, minus those, so about 6 years total over the past 2 decades. But I do think it's important how much that 1% per year at a certain age, and I think it's the statistics say around 30, but I really really believe that this is even earlier than that now because of how obese we are. Whether it's the cause or the effect, it's just the way it is. But yeah, maybe you could go over like, the common symptoms and things like that people really may not know. Like, hey, what is this? I'm tired. I go to the doctor. And unless you're seeing that or getting your blood work done for that, they might just, you know, prescribe something that you really don't need.
Yeah. So I first want to highlight a couple of things that you said that I absolutely love. I think you did an incredible job there. So a lot of the studies that I'm seeing, it looks like testosterone peaks around 19 and it kind of just plateaus until about like that 30 mark that you just said. And that's when you start that decline. And like you said, it's about 1% a year. Now, one of my favorite aspects of utilizing testosterone and being on TRT is obviously the muscle, bone, all that kind of stuff is cool, but it's the cognitive function. You just cognitively feel as you should. Like you just feel energized. You feel ready to attack problems and solve problems and all that. So I love that aspect as well. And then now let's jump into kind of the symptoms, right?
One more thing on that is like it's funny you say that because when I talk to a lot of our, my friends that are my age and stuff like that, and really none of them really do that. They're on that. And I think there's that stigma out there that they think, because they ask me questions, and I'm just like, they have all these symptoms. And I'm just like, it's, this is what we do. And they're just really reluctant to kind of get on it for whatever reason. I don't know what that is. And I just, it's kind of one of those things.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is a lot of the stigma. So let's kind of talk about the warning signs that your testosterone might be low. These symptoms honestly don't just like pop up out of nowhere and smack you in the face. They're a gradual thing, just like your testosterone levels don't just fall off a cliff normally. So these kind of just as you get older and older, they just kind of like creep into your life, and you're just like, wow, what just happened? Like 10 years ago, I felt incredible. Now I feel like crap. So the first one, the most noticeable one that I have seen, is chronic fatigue. Your energy levels are not going to be what they used to be. And you may just think, hey, this is what 40 looks like. This is what 50 looks like. Oh, this is what 60 looks like. But it's not really the way that it needs to be. It's not truly that way. You just potentially have a hormone issue. The next obvious one, if you're taking testosterone and it helps muscle and bone development, you're going to be having decreased muscle mass despite, even if you're in the gym. Like if you go to the gym all the time, you're still potentially going to have muscle wasting if you have a hormonal imbalance and your testosterone is low. You're going to have increased body fat, especially around the midsection. That's where low T individuals really tend to accumulate that body fat. Obviously, we talked about ED stuff, or Leslie mentioned that with people wanting to get on Viagra because they're having ED issues. That's why a hormonal imbalance could be all that it is, and that can just solve your problem. Why take another pharmaceutical for that has other side effects as well? And then getting into the mental aspects. So you could start having depression, irritability, just constant mood changes from those hormonal changes that sometimes can yo-yo people. Brain fog, difficulty concentrating. And that personally is one of my favorite aspects of being on TRT, is there is no brain fog, and I can concentrate exponentially better than I could without it. Your sleep will improve greatly as well. It just makes you more at ease, and it makes it easier, and you're more confident throughout the day, and it's just easier to kind of fade out at the end of the day. And then again, we talked about bone density, and that's really a crucial one that I kind of wanted to hit home. As people age and they start getting more osteoporosis, this is one way to combat that. And like I said before, a lot of men dismiss these symptoms as, oh, this is what 40 looks like, this is what 50 looks like, but it's likely just a hormonal imbalance. Leslie, we'll kind of have you touch on some of what natural age-related changes can look like with that testosterone decline.
Well, I wanted to mention one thing you talked about up there on the decreased muscle mass and despite the exercise and stuff like that. Well, a lot of things that we do, in just the day to day and we're always under stressors. We're always stressing the body. We're stressing everything. We're always on the go. We're poor eating habits because we're in such a damn hurry all the time. I thought about the other day, like, what if you took somebody, you know, our age from the like 50s and put them in today, what
Are
they
you
would
grouping
think.
me with you? Are you
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
I'm your
My
age
bad.
now?
My bad. So in the middle between us, but yeah, it was kind of interesting. Is like, how would they act with today's like just fast paced everything? But back to the original thought, there was the body is in two states. It's either catabolic or anabolic, right? So if the body is always in a catabolic state, it's going to be very difficult for you to build muscle regardless of age. If it's 30, it's going to be difficult if you have poor eating habits, things like that. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that one time before we moved on to what was the again, refresh my memory on what we were moving on
So
to.
the age related changes. So kind of what that looks like. We touched on that a little bit earlier, but we'll kind of hit like specific numbers on what people will see naturally.
So the natural decline on this is, many men dismiss that as, like you said, just getting older with age. And I was fortunate enough to know like what I had done, you know what I mean? So it wasn't one of those things, because I was in the gym at an early age and, working in the fitness industry and knowing the things that I did to myself. And, with that said, I think it's a 1 to 2 year recovery where you can get back to. So if a guy was 30 years old and he had low testosterone and then he got on testosterone therapy for 4 years, he could still have children. You can still reverse that. It takes about 1 to 2 years to fully recover from that, but it is very possible. So it's not like, oh, I can't get on that because I still want to have children. But
Let's stop you there for 1 second. So we want to talk about this fertility aspect, right? So if you're just on testosterone alone, yes, it can, especially with long-term use or high dose use, it can affect your fertility. Now, there are other remedies that we actually use. So we have a base program and we have a fertility program that fertility program does have other compounds that you can use so that you can maximize that fertility while you're still on testosterone, so you're easily able to still have kids. So don't just think that just being on TRT means that you're going to have fertility issues. That's not the case at all. You can add other compounds like gonadorelin. We also have a dim clomiphene that's oral versus the sub-Q injection on the gonadorelin, or there's the ability to get HCG. It is a little more money, but we have the ability to do that as well. So there are ways to combat that. I want to make that very clear. Go ahead, Leslie.
Is clomiphene the same thing as Clomid?
It's in the same family, exactly. It's because there's different versions. So there's like clomiphene, and there's like clomiphene citrate. It's all in the same relative family.
So how long can a man stay on clomiphene for low testosterone therapy?
There's not really like an upper limit there. We always just include that with the fertility side of things. A lot of guys just like taking it because, for example, if you're doing it while you're on TRT, maybe you're going to want, the reason we like the dim clomiphene mixture is because dim also helps protect your prostate. So we're kind of hitting it from two ends there. And a lot of people just like to stay on that the whole time they're on TRT. Now, the other option is if you want to fade back off of TRT at any point, you could switch to the N-clomiphene, which that actually has testosterone boosting properties as well. Or you could also just do N-clomiphene as a standalone therapy from the jump instead of adding exogenous. So there's many options. They're all going to be variable depending on the individual, what their goals are, kind of what their medical history is, and all of these various factors. But that's why we have this expert team here to help guide you through that for the optimal wellness journey.
So yeah, when I had R2, I was taken off of testosterone and put on a combination of, I think it was clomiphene, and it might have been the N-clomiphene and the HCG. So, man, yeah, the HCG is expensive, and it's, people don't like, I didn't mind it because I'm used to that type of thing, but it's kind of where you have to kind of mix it and then use it, and it's refrigerated, and it's a little bit more expensive. But I thought that was my very first experience with TRT, because I was not I used my insurance, and we'd had that discussion before. I was around 350 or whatever, and they would treat me with HCG, and it got up to around 600 at max, and that was like, okay, well, that's good enough. That's the extent of your treatment, and I didn't really feel that much different. And then once I started to go on to bioidentical, that's what it's called, right? The testosterone is a bioidentical hormone. I felt like I was 25 again, and that was in my late 30s. So it was kind of like, and I tell my buddies that too. I was like, dude, you're gonna feel a lot younger than what you feel right now at 50 years old. When you get off work, you go take a nap for 2 hours. So you're not gonna feel like taking a nap like that. So, but yeah, so you went over some of those already, where it peaks at 19 and decreases 1% at 30. I find this very interesting. About 60% of men by the age of 60, not in their 60s. So that's by the age of 60. If you think about those statistics, have low testosterone, that's 20%. And if you do the math, you have 350 million, right? Half of that is men, or is it more? I don't know the breakdown of.
So it's roughly 50-50. There's actually there's slightly more women.
Is there? So a little bit under 40%, and then 20% of that 100% number have that. That's a pretty big number, to have that. So, and I honestly, that's just what they know. That's the people that's being tested. So if you want to put yourself, if you want to go to real numbers, I would wager on that number being a lot bigger than 20%, because most men aren't doing the blood work to get tested in the first place. And we'll talk about that.
Exactly.
But,
yeah. And it looks like the breakdown is 49.5% male and 50.5 female. So very close.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good. So yeah, I would love to get maybe we'll talk about next for, hormone replacement for women on the next one. But yeah, that's an interesting topic as well. I'd love to learn more about. So, but yeah, and then the other one is, 30% plus by the time you're 70 years old. So for me, my goal is to still be able to do the things I love to do by that age, 70, 80 years old. I still want to be able to be working out and going to the gym on a regular basis and being able to, play with my grandkids, hopefully, and things like that. That's why I believe it is so important for us to kind of get a stranglehold on, if you are or if you're not. And the only way to know, and I've had this conversation with so many people, is like they want to grill me with 1,000 questions on whether they have low T, and I'm just like, go get tested. It's $150. We'll go get you tested, and there's no more guessing. Like the numbers are going to tell us, dude. So, and it's the same thing with when people, they come to me with weight loss and refuse to do the tracking and the math and not know where you're at. Well, how the hell are you going to do anything if you don't know where the hell you are? Like we got to figure out where you are before we take any measurements or any steps moving forward. Same thing with testosterone. We got to know where the hell you are before we can move forward. Sorry for my little tangent.
No, you're good. And I think it's super important there because it's like now you look at look at business owners, entrepreneurs, right? Guys that will know every single number about their business, their ROI, bottom line, top, all the figures, right? But then you ask them, so what do your labs look like? What's your free level at? What's your total level at? Where's your, all of these levels? And they have no idea.
Can you touch on that? I hate to interrupt you, but we've had this discussion, and I've had a couple fertility doctors and hormone doctors over the years, and I think I told you my last one before we made this business told me like your free testosterone number isn't important; it's that total one. Can you talk on that a little bit and what that number looks like and why that's important?
I'm actually glad you brought that up. That's a very good point. So the numbers that Leslie was saying earlier about how, they're only insurances will only allow you basically get up to about 600. The reason and that's a total level, not a free level, to be very clear here. So the differences here are your total testosterone level. That's just the total amount of testosterone that's in your body. That doesn't mean that it's testosterone that you're able to utilize. That's just the total amount. Nothing else matters. And that, ironically, is the number that insurance companies really care about. And to be honest with you, it's doing such a big disservice to the client and patient because that number doesn't really matter all that much. The bigger number that you should be more concerned with is your free testosterone level. Your free testosterone level is the amount that's actually available to the muscle and is active in your bloodstream. So you can have, we see it all the time where people will come in and they'll have, somewhat normal total levels, but their free level is clinically low. If they go to just any old clinic, they're not going to be able to get therapy because they don't care about the free level. They care about the total. And insurance companies know this as a way to try to not have to pay for therapy, right? They're a business. They want to save money. So the free level, what the difference there is you may have like a sex hormone binding that's elevated that eats up a lot of that testosterone that's in your body, so it's not available. There are various other factors as well that feed into that, but just know that the free level is much more important. And a lot of clinics, what they'll end up doing is they don't draw the free level. They just calculate the free level. And that is based upon average values that in a normal person that has average sex binding and all these other factors would convert to free. And again, that's doing a huge disservice to the actual client because who's average? What's average? What does that mean? Every person is unique and every person is an individual system. And that system has different requirements and different needs.
Yeah, because going by how someone feels, I think, is way more important. Because if you go through your life at 600, you know what I mean? Or let's just say you go through your life at 700, right? So about right in the middle. And you drop down to 300, then you can get treated, But if you go through your life at about 11 and you drop down to 700, you're going to feel just as shitty as the guy that dropped to 3, but yet insurance isn't going to help you out any, which I find, because, it's like going with that baseline for somebody with diabetes, somebody that's blood sugar, stays at 400 all the time. and then you put them down at 100, they feel like crap. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, 100 is where you're supposed to be. You should feel normal. I'm used to being at 400. So how can I feel normal at 100? So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm kind of like, and maybe you can touch on this too. And I don't know why. I need to probably do the research on it. But being sedentary, why does being sedentary lower testosterone levels in men?
I love that question. So first of all, the numbers that you were saying were, again, the total numbers. So you got to make sure that you're watching both. Wanted to make sure that we're talking about that. So the sedentary aspect is kind of feeding into why so many men nowadays have lower testosterone. There are multiple factors. Being sedentary is one, and I'll kind of get into why that is the case. But you've got other things too that are really a big issue. So number one, poor sleep habits, chronic stress, which increases cortisol, which is your stress hormone. When that stress hormone starts shooting up, your body is in that flight or fight response. So it's not able to do normal processes like it should. And one of those is the production of certain hormones, including testosterone. So what ends up happening is when you don't sleep correctly, that's your body's chance to repair. That's when you can get rid of free radicals. It's when you can do a lot of things to heal yourself. But if you don't give the body the proper time, the proper space to do that, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. The next one that Leslie just kind of talked on there is the sedentary lifestyle. So the sedentary lifestyle, it really hurts your testosterone production because you're not getting, like when you move and you're doing things and you stay mobile, you lift weights and do these types of things, you're stressing the body to challenge the body in a physical manner. And when you challenge the body in a physical manner, you're going to release testosterone. And that's why if you go to the gym, for example, you may look at different exercises, and like some guys, for example, they'll just do upper body. They're just going to do chest, arms, and back maybe, right? And they have these little chicken legs, right? Now, when you do that, you're literally negating the most important exercise for testosterone production. And the reason why is your legs and your butt are the biggest muscles in your body. So when you're able to activate the largest muscles in your body, you're going to have a much larger testosterone response, which is going to help you in various other ways. So it's just stressing your body in a way that challenges it so that you are producing that testosterone instead of just sitting around, not having the neurotransmitters fire like they should. You're probably going to have a dopamine issue as well, which kind of feeds into the testosterone issue. So it's all linked. Your whole body's a system again.
So being sedentary, you're probably going to gain weight, which is going to convert testosterone to estrogen. And then the estrogen inside those fat cells, it's like one of those loops, man. How do you know what I mean? Those fat cells are going to produce estrogen and store more estrogen. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like a runaway train. It's crazy. Another interesting study that I found recently was if you look at what's quote unquote called blue zones, right? So blue zones in the world are where the longest living populations are. So the highest concentration of centenarians, so people that live well over 100 years old. And one piece of information was kind of common between a lot of these, the mobility factor. And the mobility factor keeps your bones strong. It keeps that testosterone and your hormones feeding your body so that you can have a much longer life as well. One piece of information, there's an island by Italy where there's a blue zone, and they found that a person's age, the length of their life was directly correlated to how steep of a hill they had to climb each day, because there was an island that was very mountainous. So if, for example, they had to climb, a 30-degree angle, 4 miles to get to church and then, do their daily errands, they were going to live a lot longer than somebody that just had to do a 5-degree angle, which is interesting because then you start thinking, well, wait, you're stressing the body. So obviously stressing the body in certain ways is actually good for you. Not only does it build muscle, which helps protect a lot of your body and ligaments and bone and all of that, but it actually produces the hormones that give you that drive in life, that give you the purpose in life, which is very, very important for longevity. So just because you don't think that you necessarily want to be on testosterone because it has the stigma of, oh, I'm going to be a bodybuilder, oh, I'm going to get angry and all these things, which are not actually true, it actually comes down to longevity. Like, who doesn't want to live a longer and healthier life that you are able to stay mobile? Like, it gets so bad that, like, when you get older and you start looking at some of these older individuals, you start wondering, why are there so many broken hips? And then when they break their hip, they normally die within 36 months, right? Well, it's interesting because you're like, oh, okay, grandma fell and broke her hip, right? No, that's not at all what happened. Here's an example. She'd be standing in the kitchen sink doing dishes or something, and literally her hip breaks first because she's so frail, because the mobility is not there, and then she falls. So it's interesting how a lot of these things are linked, and that's something that I got from Gary Brecka, actually, who's very knowledgeable on that kind of stuff with when it comes to like insurance policies, because he used to be an actuary with them to review all sorts of medical records. I found that super interesting.
Yeah, I find that interesting too because my grandfather just 2 years ago basically fell out of bed and broke his hip. But what you're saying is got out of bed to go to the restroom in the middle of the night, and when he did, broke his hip and then fell. That's interesting. I really find that fascinating. Not just that, but just the ability to kind of negate that. And in those blue zones that you were mentioning, they also have really good eating habits. Like their eating habits are phenomenal. So
Yeah, and that's actually something that we're getting ready to get into right now. So another factor or various factors for low T are, think about in today's world, like everything that you consume, bottled water, like all of like carry out containers, like all sorts of stuff. It's just all over society. The microplastics and the plastics in your personal care products, shampoo, condition, all this stuff has plastic in it, and you're ingesting plastics. Do you think that's something that was meant to be in our body? Like, probably not. So that's a big one.
I heard a statistic that the amount of plastic that we digest over a year time is the weight of a credit card. I'm like, holy crap. Like, that's crazy.
Exactly. Now, that's another big factor. Then we're going to link into what Leslie just mentioned, the poor dietary choices, especially in the United States. And this is also why we're the fattest country in the world. So the food industry has created all of these food products that have highly, highly, highly processed foods. And they also have created these compounds in food that shoot up estrogen levels. What that ends up doing is it causes weight gain for maybe a slightly different reason than you would think. So the weight gain is actually because when you eat these super highly processed foods, there's not really any nutritional, like good nutrition in them, is probably the best way to say that. So your body is being starved of the good nutrition, which in effect means, what are you going to do? You're going to eat more to try to get the good nutrition. So you just have a runaway train of just eating all these highly processed foods that you never satisfy your body. And then it's just a runaway train. Estrogen also spikes, and it's just, they feed each other, which is horrible, right? And then that links to obesity, which also kicks up the diabetes aspect. And once you get to be in the obesity category, a lot of times you're so far past what would be normal weight that your body actually takes testosterone and converts it into estrogen, which is pretty ironic. And then the last thing is getting your micronutrients dialed in. Pretty much everybody in the United States is deficient in magnesium, which is huge, and vitamin D. Those are massive compounds that you want to make sure are in your body. For example, I personally take 5,000 IUs of D3 every single day. And I like the D3K2 as well. That mixture is really good to take because they potentiate each other. And like I personally source vitamin D from Vimergy. There's a lot of good brands out there, Thorne, Pure Encapsulations, even like the Life Vantage. They have a nice little subscription program. And another one to consider and look into is zinc. So zinc does a lot of things, and a lot of it is immune response as well. When you kind of take some of these micronutrients, you're feeding more than just the testosterone issue. You're also just making yourself healthier overall and more robust so you can fight off pathogens like pandemics. The people that were found to have normal or regular vitamin D supplementation magically didn't have issues with COVID. I think that's a very interesting link there. So the good news here, we just talked about all these factors that are, potentially like, oh God, this is horrible. What do I do? The good news here is a lot of these factors we can control. We can control how we sleep. We can control how we eat. You just have to be strong about it, and you can control taking micronutrients. It's all up here in your mind. That's truly what it comes back to. And then when you combine these factors with proper medical supervision, we can optimize those test levels very, very effectively. So now that we understand what testosterone is and why it's declining, let's explore the life-changing benefits that proper testosterone replacement therapy can offer. I mean, it's truly mind-blowing when you get into some of these. So go ahead, Leslie.
Can I touch on
Yeah.
hit a couple of my passions there with that last
Couple nuggets, huh?
bit? Yeah. So I did make a little bit of note here when you mentioned like poor diet choices. I agree with everything you said in there. The one thing that I would push back on, and I've had this pushback with many other people on several other podcasts, and when it comes to processed food. So there are multiple levels of processed foods from 1 to 4, right? And not all processed foods, in my opinion, in my world, are created equal. That's my thoughts. Like all your highly palatable processed foods with high fat, high sugar, and no protein. That's the problem with the processed foods, right? So there's no balance in those. But if you take a protein bar that has an equal amount of protein, say it has 40% protein, 40% carb, 20% fat, that's a pretty good balance. You see what I'm saying? So that is going to have a very different reaction in the body than one that has 50% fat and 45% sugar and 5% protein. If it has that at all, that protein, usually if you look on a lot of the highly processed, highly palatable foods, the protein intake is less than 1%. And most of that shit we're feeding our kids, to be quite honest. But I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. And that's one of the things, one of those rabbit holes that I've been really diving down really deep. And I was really on board with how bad processed foods were in the past. And this is something I'm just kind of really starting to scratch the surface on, because I really believe that plant-based products are going to have to play a vital role in our society. We can't double our meat production. We just can't. It's impossible. Once, population is going to reach higher levels, we just can't. You're going to have to be able to feed society somehow. We got to find a way to process these foods, by making them more balanced and introducing those foods to our youth at an earlier age.
I still think that the primary thing is whole foods. If you can get to the whole foods, because those are completely balanced and in nature and the way that they should be and perfect for your body to consume, those are what you want to seek. Now, processed foods are after. Yeah.
Yeah, in a perfect world, if you could do it and you can eat whole foods and minimally processed, that next level where you're basically just chopping and dicing your fruits and vegetables and your meats and stuff, that's minimally processed foods, then you're better off. But let's just, talking to the masses here, if you are going to hit, a protein, if you are going to hit those snacks and those processed foods, try to get some that are more balanced. But yeah, and one more thing before we move on, I wanted to touch on when it comes to the nutrients, vitamin D, zinc, and magnesium. And this is just me. And I would love it if you push back on me a little bit, but I believe creatine needs to be in there on that. I believe everybody should be taking at least 5 grams of creatine every single day. And there's more studies out there, more studies, and it's like the most studied supplement on the planet. They're using it now at a high dosage to treat women in osteoporosis at like 10 grams per day, which is kind of crazy if you think about it.
So for me, I was just separating that out as I don't consider creatine a micronutrient.
No, it's not. No. Yeah, you're right. I was just throwing it out there as like a something that I think, hey, I know it's in there, but it's not one of those micronutrients yet. However, at one point ethanol wasn't a macronutrient either, and somehow that became a macronutrient over the past
Yeah, well,
decades.
that's true. Now, another thing I want to like talk about here too is like, for example, not all magnesium is created equal here, guys. So the best that I have found for magnesium is glycinate. That actually is activated and ready. Chelated is another good form as well, but there are so many forms. The biggest thing to know here is you want to take vitamins in and micronutrients in that are able to be absorbed by your body in the best possible manner. So that means that not all things are created equal. So, for example, another huge one that's in a lot of energy drinks is cyanocobalamin. They say it's a vitamin B, right? Cyano is a derivative of cyanide. You're literally ingesting poison. Like it, and it's so sad, and it's insane that they put it into everything, like especially energy drinks. But instead, if you took the methylated form, like methylcobalamin, it's much healthier. And that is how a lot of like organic energy drinks try to swap those out. And there's a big difference there. So that's a whole rabbit hole. That's a whole other conversation, whole other podcast, but one to make
Yeah,
you
I
aware
just
of
wrote
that.
that
Yeah.
down because I was like, gonna ask you, like, I know we're limited on time, but maybe on another podcast we dive a little bit deeper into methylated stuff like that. So I've been doing a little bit of research since our last conversation on the methylated stuff. So and now I got like 5 different methylated vitamins in my shopping cart that I'm about to buy. So it's one of those things where I guess it's the methylation of these weren't even a thing in the not too distant past. It's kind of like, or maybe it was, and I just wasn't privy to it. Who knows? I don't know when that started to become a thing, but or the deeper I dive, or we dive into all this stuff, and that's why we're here. We do the work for you.
Let's move to the benefits of TRT. So I'll kind of turn this over to you, Leslie, and I guess I'll just introduce this section. You can kind of get into the facts here. So when properly prescribed and monitored, which means lab work is crucial here, guys. This is one of the main reasons why you don't just go by black market testosterone, among various others. But are you going to do labs? Are you going to make sure that you're good? Or what happens when your hematocrit gets elevated and your blood thickens? Potentially life-threatening, right? And a lot of people don't know this. So when properly prescribed and monitored, testosterone replacement therapy can have profound effects on your overall health and quality of life. So let's explore these benefits in detail, backed by clinical research and our experience at My Body Health and Wellness.
All right, yeah. So the very first thing that I noticed, and most anybody notices, is your energy level. I mean, that's by far the first thing anybody's like, "Oh, I got more energy." So, and that's huge, right? So, I'll just scratch the surface on those versus going into a deep dive on any of those, like, the cellular energy production and mitochondrial function. We can get into those, or maybe even add the notes to our recording, but yeah, so a lot of people, they get in the first few months of treatment, there's energy, restoring zest of life, and they just feel like they have a new lease on life. And when you have more energy, then obviously we can exercise more. You're going to increase muscle protein synthesis, which I just had that conversation with the client yesterday when he's a I believe I get him confused sometimes, the meso ectomorph, endomorph. So he's a hard gainer basically, and he's training 6 days a week. And I was like, hey, buddy, you got to find a way. He doesn't want to jump on testosterone, and hell, he's reluctant to even get his, TRT levels tested. He's one of those guys where I'm just like, go get the test. If, it's $150, you are, or you aren't. So, but we talked about the muscle protein synthesis and, why he has to eat the protein and the importance of that, because he's struggling to build the muscle. So that's just one thing. Like if you don't necessarily have to be overweight to say, oh, I might be low in testosterone. No, even if you're lean, you could be low in testosterone. If you're having trouble in the gym, even gaining weight, you might want to think about that as well. So you'll enhance your muscle recruitment fibers, your recovery time, and that's what I told him too. I was like, you're constantly stressing the body too much on that training, and then you're working out 6 days a week, and you're a hard gainer at that. I'd reduce that down to 4, and I told him that 3 weeks ago. What do you think he's still doing? He's still working out 6 days a week. So I hope he watches this because I'm talking about him, so he's gonna know too. But so greater strength and gains on resistance training, your muscle to fat ratio is going to improve because you're going to reduce that fat. And there's that big question of whether or not you can turn. Can I turn muscle into fat? No, I can't turn a feather into a rock. However, we can, do both at the same time. We can build muscle and reduce fat at the same time. And it's very difficult. Or
You meant fat into muscle. I think you said it backwards.
Oh, did I? Yeah. You can't turn fat into muscle, but you can't turn muscle into fat either. But you can lose muscle and gain fat, and you can lose fat, gain muscle. So it's very difficult to do unless you're in a caloric deficit. However, it can be easily achieved if your numbers are low. It's impossible. If your numbers are low and we get treatment, you'll see it. It happens. Cognitive function. Yeah, there we go. Mental clarity, memory, processing, awareness, decision making. Those are all improved through that as well.
Yeah, you're just sharper.
Yeah, you're mentally clearer, sharper. You're able to do great, awesome podcasts like these, which I couldn't have done prior. But yeah, you're gonna have your wife. Maybe we should target these two women, and because men have a phobia when it comes to going to the doctor and going getting their blood drawn. So we should probably talk to the women about this one when it comes to sexual function. If your men are not performing the way they need to be performing, you need to tell them to go get on TRT, because then you're going to thank us. You're going to pay us double. So you're going to be sending us extra checks in the mail. Or and no, on a serious note, like, man, your women are going to be happier if you can perform, because and it's not, I want to be clear, it's not about one certain thing, except for the fact that if you have an erectile dysfunction and you can't perform, the woman will feel like it's a direct reflection of her. She's not going to understand that it's just not working. You know what I mean? She's not going to get that. She's just not. But if you can go whenever she's ready, then she's going to feel like, special in that regard. You know what I'm saying? But if you can't go when she's ready, that's a disaster.
Not a fun place to be.
Yeah, that's a tough place to be. But anyway, moving on. Anything you want to touch on there? We do, we specialize in erectile dysfunction as well.
Definitely. So I think that the other part of that, not only are you going to help in the bedroom, or it's going to help in the bedroom, but you're going to have the energy to help around the house. I mean, she's going to appreciate it much more. That's why the other thing is, like, to talk to the women about this, because, is your guy just dead after work and he doesn't really want to, like, help you around the house, or, go outside, pick up leaves in the fall, whatever chores there are to do around the house. This is going to give him that ability and not be so bogged down, which is so crucial.
Yeah, don't do too much, because take it from me, once you do too much, it just becomes your job. So
yeah, it's not fun.
How did I get that job? I don't even know how that happened.
Yeah.
I was just trying to be nice at first. So.
Yeah, exactly. Not fun.
So
we're kidding, of course.
We'll go on from there, because we are running a real bit. We're at 51, but mood. We talked about that. Mental well-being, sleep quality. We dived into that. I know that's very important. For me, if you take it all the way back up to that, what was I'm trying to think. Where's my notes here? You mentioned it on the vitamin, the magnesium. So I take the magnesium at night before I go to bed, which helps me sleep, and I get better sleep too. So
also, women, if your guy has sleep apnea and he snores and it sounds like he's sawing logs all night long, testosterone can potentially help with that, because it's going to help trim him down and open up those airways.
Yeah, I don't know much about sleep apnea, but is that Do people have sleep apnea? They snore a lot, or what's up with that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, they have trouble breathing at night. And that's why you have those CPAP
So they
machines.
just stop breathing, or is it a snoring issue?
They can. Yeah. Yeah. They can both. So a lot of that can be linked to obesity and weight gain. So obviously, if you're losing weight, that opens up your airways more.
So another benefit of TRT is your body composition. So you're going to increase your metabolic rate. Increase your fat burning capacity. You're going to be more insulin sensitive, which is going to help reduce abdominal fat. And we just talked about the estrogen being stored in that fat tissue, and the more fat tissue you have, the more estrogen, and it's going to suppress the testosterone. So we can literally reverse that. Um, Improve muscle definition. So as you get leaner, you're obviously going to see more muscle and stuff like that. So
All of these benefits are pretty far reaching, right? And they're pretty impressive, but you can't just magically take testosterone, especially like if you just want to go bonkers and take a crazy dose and just think that all these things are magically going to happen. So that's the crucial component here. It's important to understand that yes, that stuff's impressive, but it's also very important that it requires proper medical supervision and careful consideration of various factors. So a lot of this is due to your labs, right? We want to make sure that we're watching certain things on your labs, and every person is different. So testosterone can affect people slightly differently, and we want to make sure that all of those are in line to optimize your overall well-being. And that's the important thing here. And you also got to remember that with it being a hormone, this isn't something where you take one shot and you're Superman, right? This is something that's gradual. It takes time for your body to acclimate to the new environment that you're providing by putting testosterone in it. So you got to give it some time to actually work and get those changes in your body. So some important considerations here. So before starting testosterone replacement therapy, there are crucial factors that every patient needs to understand. At My Body Health and Wellness, we believe in full transparency about what this journey entails. So number one, medical screening. This is where the lab work comes into play. Proper screening is non-negotiable for safe and effective treatment. Not only is it a huge liability to like a doctor if they're not screening you and doing labs regularly, but it's also dangerous to your health, to be honest with you. Now, we'll kind of get into some lab panels to watch out for. This is very granular, just so you guys, we know we're throwing a lot at you, but this is nice because you can come back and reference this material at a future date. So some of the essential labs that you're going to want to draw not just your total testosterone level, but as we talked about earlier, your free level. Don't go like any clinic you go into, even if it's not us. If you go into them and ask them what labs they draw to monitor your testosterone, make sure you're very specific and you ask them, do you specifically draw free testosterone or do you calculate that? That answer is going to tell you what caliber of clinic they are. Because I promise you, that free testosterone panel is not cheap. It's the most expensive panel on this entire set of lab work. So number two, testosterone is one side. What's the other half? Estrogen. So you got to make sure that your estrogen is not spiking. So that's an E2 or an estradiol level. Very, very important. You're going to have your CBC, your complete blood count, your comprehensive metabolic panel. So you can see kind of what's going on with like your lipids and cholesterol, all that kind of stuff. Your PSA, that's going to be prostate. With that, if it gets too elevated, the prostate's being enlarged and you probably don't want to be on testosterone for that. There are things you can take, like we mentioned earlier, that DIM can help reduce that size and make it a lot better. Thyroid function, so that's going to be a metabolic component, and then your lipid panel. And then in terms of like physical assessments outside of that, we're going to want to know medical history, right? We're going to want to know like body composition analysis potentially to kind of get a baseline level so that we can show you, hey, this is where you started and this is where you're progressing to. Blood pressure is another one. Obviously, if we're monitoring like your hematocrit, which is that blood thickening, which is part of that CBC, it's going to allow us to see if that blood is thickening, which is potentially lethal. Think about it. Your heart is going to have to work a lot harder to pump your blood if it's significantly thicker. Prostate exams, potentially, we would probably send you off to a specialist at my body health and wellness if there is a serious issue there. And then potentially even sleep apnea screening. These are all various factors that if you have an issue with that you'd want to bring to our attention. And then now, just like in any therapy, there are potential side effects. And then how do you manage those side effects? So TRT requires understanding of these potential side effects. So these are all manageable, but things to consider: mild acne. You can also retain water. So fluid retention. Go ahead, Leslie.
On that, like I've never had. I know you say they're possible, but let me tell you this: I've never had any of those in the whole time I've been doing that because of my diet. I'm a firm believer. Like if you, and you'll touch on that, but I just wanted to interrupt you there because I was silent too long. So go ahead.
No, you're good. Yeah. And honestly, since I've been on, I've never had any of these issues as well. A lot of these are combined with people that are dosing extremely high, like especially the acne one and the fluid retention and the testicular atrophy. But if you're on with a legitimate medical clinic who's really out to serve your best interests, your dosing is going to be appropriate. And so they're going to make sure that those effects are mitigated. And then obviously the changes in PSA levels, which is prostate related. So strategies on how to manage these. So obviously getting regular labs done and then adjusting that dosage as you need. Maybe you need to go down if you're starting to have especially PSA spike, or you're starting to get massive amounts of acne and it's not controllable. And then a big part of it is the estrogen side. So we always include in all of our therapies an AI, which is also known as an aromatase inhibitor. That's how you keep that estrogen from spiking. And we can adjust that dosage separately. Whereas some clinics like to combine that AI with the testosterone in the same vial. So you're injecting both at the same time, which is cheaper and potentially more convenient. Granted, you're only taking a small pill, but we like to have those variables split. And the reason being is that way we're able to change each one independently as needed, which in the end gives you guys much higher quality of care, which is what we're all about. And then on the fertility side, implementing some sort of gonadorelin, dimclomiphene mixture, or if you really want to spend the money and you think the HCG is a better fit for you, that's always an option. And then understanding that all of these are preventable or manageable with proper medical oversight. I cannot stress that enough. We're going to hop ahead to the black market stuff. Okay. So we want to understand here that when you go with the clinic, we're going to be safety first approach because everyone is different. And that value of the medical expertise is honestly second to none. It's incredible. So now we're going to get into the dangers of the black market testosterone. And I'll kind of send this over to you, Leslie, after I mention one point here. So we're going to address the serious concern in the testosterone space: black market or underground testosterone products. Okay. While these might seem like they're cheaper or easier to potentially obtain, there are a lot of hidden risks and costs that you may not be aware of. One little piece that I want to put in here is it has been shown, studies have shown that up to 53% of black market testosterone contains different ingredients than what is on the label. That is a scary, scary figure. You're essentially flipping a coin, and it might not even be testosterone. It might be something that harms you. Go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah, I think you hit that right there. I mean, that's like, it doesn't really get more extreme than that. You have no idea what the hell you're putting in your body. And it's not like I'm just, putting something on there that's going to be, out of my system in a few hours. Like I'm injecting this into my muscle. And I've seen, trust me, I've been doing this a long time. I've seen guys that will do the black market stuff in the quads, and next thing you know, they're getting skin grafts on the quads because they had no idea what they're even getting. Because listen, these guys, when you go on the black market, I mean, I can go out online right now and get everything I need from China to produce testosterone. And I make it right here, sitting here talking to you right here. How sterile is that? That be plain and simple. Like, how sterile do you think that is when these guys that you're getting it from are doing it in their bathtub, for Christ's sake? I mean, that's just what it boils down to. They're in their kitchen in a non-sterile environment using God only knows what oils to put in there. It could be a grapeseed oil, it could be vegetable, who knows? I don't know, But anyway, if you decide to go down that way, you're putting your life at risk. I mean, there's no there's no other way to put it, man. When you go down that road.
Yeah. Here's another factor too. So they make these in batches, right? So when you make them in batches, you can't maintain a consistent like concentration. So you may go to your guy one time and get it, and let's just for argument's sake, let's say it's dosed the same that we use at 200 milligrams per ml. You go get it one time and that's what it is. Next time you go, it may be
For
dosed
some reason,
with
black
50.
market's always 250. I have no idea why that is, but for some reason,
Weird,
it's always
yeah.
labeled 250, never 200. Because I'm like, what? It's weird, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And don't ask me
Weird.
how I know those things. But
Yeah, never.
yeah, unfortunately, I have experience with the black market side of it, and not, and it wasn't pleasant. I mean, let's be honest. And it wasn't always. We didn't have the education platforms that we have now. To educate us. If these things were in place when I was younger, I would have never did it. You know what I mean? Nobody ever said, Leslie, don't do that. You know what I mean? You don't know what's in that. No, nobody ever said that because everybody around me were doing it. But anyway.
And they want to make money on you.
Yeah. They're quadrupling that money, right? So the health dangers are obvious, when it comes to that. You don't know what you're putting in there, dosage, you mentioned that, and the inconsistency, the fluctuation in your hormones because you don't know what level of those you're getting. Liver toxic, there's toxic ingredients to the liver, and if you drink alcohol, which 90% of the people do, you're doing even more risk to the liver. So we have a mutual guy that came to us with a really bad liver. You remember that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And our, Dr. Sidoris was like, get that dude off of everything right now, so anyway, so yeah, not just those health factors and stuff like that, but also the legal implications of that as well. So I don't know how much they crack down on that. It doesn't seem like they do very much because you can Google that right now and get something on the black market, just simply Googling it and pay for it through some sort of cryptocurrency. And, so I don't know how much they're really cracking down on it because I don't have the experience on that side, but, there is that risk factor involved in that as well. So,
yeah. Now think about this from the financial risk too. So think about if something goes wrong. Think about how much more you're going to have to pay an ER to like try to help you with whatever is going on, right? Then you got legal fees. If heaven forbid, if you get into some legal issues, you got long-term complications that can end up being complications that cost tens of thousands of dollars. Think about if you injure your liver. I mean, there's a lot. Think about if you get like scammed. What are you going to do if somebody just takes your money, right? Nothing. So then compare all of these things to the professional care that we offer at My Body Health and Wellness. So you're getting pharmaceutical grade, FDA approved medications that have to be held to a very, very high standard, all in sterile, properly manufactured spaces and containers that they put them in, which is very, very important, which means that this is very precisely dosed to make sure you're getting the exact amount that it says on the label. Along with this, so now you're taking it from the supply side, we offer the regular blood work so that you can make sure that things are going the way they should be, and then we can make adjustments as necessary. These are legal prescriptions. You're going to be able to travel with them with no issues. What happens if you go through airport security and you've got some rinky-dink vial of testosterone that's clearly not legal? You think they're going to be, hey, here, yeah, go ahead, no problem, right? Probably not. We're going to have expert medical oversight. We're going to be able to prevent some of the complications from the jump, so you never have to go through those. And then you're going to have multiple treatment options depending on what your needs are. And we have complete treatment protocols, not just testosterone. So the reality is trying to save money with black market testosterone often ends up being way more expensive, both financially and to your health in the long run. Our clinic provides comprehensive care that ensures your safety, optimizes your results, and protects your long-term health. We'll go ahead and wrap this up for you guys. So your journey to optimal health begins with one simple click. It's that easy, guys. In the show notes, you're going to find direct links to our intake form, a way to schedule a free consult so that we can kind of go over what's going on and the optimal solution here. We're going to give you some resources, some educational resources, and how to contact us. Don't compromise your health with unregulated alternatives. Click the links below to take the first step towards optimized hormone health with My Body Health and Wellness. Remember to subscribe to Activate Your Best Health and share this episode with others who might benefit from this information. Your optimal health journey begins now. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good day, guys.
So, you just listened to this episode. Now, join us in being addicted to betterment. Please subscribe to the show, share with your friends, tag us, and please take a moment, leave a review. Yeah, we do want your stars, but we really want the feedback.